Okay, today we're going to understand and apply the properties of a rhombus to algebra. Please make sure that you take out a sheet of loose leaf paper if you chose not to print out these notes. So the properties of a rhombus we're going to review. It's got all the properties of a parallelogram, which means your opposite sides are parallel. So once again, this is parallel to this side is parallel to this side. Your opposite sides are congruent. This side equals this side here equals this side. Your opposite angles are congruent. So angle A is equal to angle C. Angle D is equal to angle B. Your consecutive angles are supplementary. Don't forget, consecutive means next to. So for example, A plus B add up to 180. Your diagonals bisect each other, which means it cuts them in half. So if I draw my two diagonals, this piece is equal to this piece, and this piece is equal to this piece, and your diagonals create two congruent triangles. What makes a rhombus unique or different from a parallelogram is all sides are congruent, which means AB is equal to BC, also equal to CD, and also equal to DA. So we can say AB is congruent to BC, which is also congruent to CD, and also congruent to DA. The second property that makes a rhombus unique is that the diagonals bisect the angles. So if I draw in this diagonal, this angle is equal to this angle is equal to this angle, and since angle D and angle B are equal to each other, those four angles are congruent. And if I draw in this diagonal, it cuts this angle in half, so those two pieces are equal, and it cuts this angle in half, so those two are equal. So to save us some time from writing, 1, 2, 3, and 4, angle 1 is congruent to angle 2, angle 3 is congruent to angle 4. Technically, these are all congruent. And if I call this 5, 6, this one 7, and 8, angle 5 is congruent to angle 6, angle 7 is congruent to angle 8, and technically all of these four angles are the same measure. So again, all sides are congruent and the diagonals bisect, which means cut in half the angles. And the last property is that the diagonals are perpendicular to each other. The symbol, once again, for perpendicular is that, which means if I draw this diagonal and I draw this diagonal, I have a right angle here, I have a right angle here, I have a right angle here, and I have a right angle there. So once again, I'm going to number them 1, 2, 3, and 4, and I'm going to say angle 1, angle 2, angle 3, angle 4 are each 90 degrees. So once again, if we go back to that family tree of our quadrilaterals, a parallelogram has its unique properties. A rectangle has all the properties of a parallelogram, plus some of its own. And a rhombus also has all the properties of a parallelogram, plus some of its own that make it unique. So if we look at the first example, it says in rhombus ABCD. I would stop right there and draw myself a rhombus to the best of your ability. Again, when we're labeling, we have to label in a circle, so ABCD. It says the measure of angle A is 50, so we're going to put a 50 there. It says find the measure of all the other angles. Since A is 50, that means C has to be 50 because they're opposite. Angle A and angle D are next to each other. They have to be supplementary, so how about 50 plus X equals 180? If I minus 50 from each side, I get that X equals 130. So this is 130, and then since B is opposite D, B is also 130. Number 2 says in the rhombus below, it says the measure of angle W is 60. So that means this entire angle here is 60 degrees. it says find the measure of AXY. So A to X to Y. So there's a couple of different options to do this. The first thing we can say is that W plus X are next to each other. That means they're supplementary. So 180 is going to be 60 plus X. If I subtract 60 from both sides, I get 120 equals X. So the whole angle at X is 120. Because it's a rhombus and we have a diagonal, this is 120. Each of them, we're going to cut it in half, is 60 and 60. So angle AXY equals 60 degrees. Another option to do this same exact question, you could have said since W is 60, that means this is 30. Since it's a rhombus, this is 90. If you wanted to do 180, because I have a little triangle down there, minus 90 minus 30, I'd be left with 60 for this angle here. And then you can say you know that these two angles are equal because the diagonals cut a rhombus. Some of you might have seen that you have a little right triangle on the bottom there. Either way is fine. Number 3, it says in rhombus MNOP. So again, we're going to start by drawing ourselves a rhombus. And we're going to label it MNOP. Diagonal MO is 10. So I'm going to draw that in and put a 10. And it says diagonal NP is 24. It says find the perimeter of the rhombus. So vocabulary, perimeter means add all 4 sides. Add 4 sides, which means I need a side. Technically, because it's a rhombus, all 4 sides are equal. Another property of our rhombus is that the diagonals are perpendicular, so I have a little right angle here. If I focus on this shape here, I have a right triangle. Now, if I know N to P is 24, then I can say N, we'll call that E for the middle there, that side is going to be 12 because it bisects each other. If I know M to O is 10, then I really know that this piece of the black triangle is 5. So if I focus my efforts on that little right triangle, I have a 12, I have a 5, and I have an X. If I use the Pythagorean theorem, a squared plus b squared equals c squared. Again, the legs of that right triangle are my A and my B. Again, we're going to square root. So that tells me this is 13 here, which means this is 13. But I want the perimeter, which means I have to add all 4 sides. So you have one of 2 choices, 1, 2, 3, 4, or either way, you get your perimeter is 52. Once again, if you have any questions, please make sure you write them down and either send me an email or ask me next time you see me in class.